So here to start another vlog in June. So this one is going to center around some FairyLoot books that deal with gods in some way, shape, or form. At least I hope the second one will. The synopsis does mention gods. I don't know how big of a role they play, but you know, whatever. These are some of the oldest FairyLoots that I have unread on my shelves. So figured it would be fun to just put them all together in a vlog and go ahead and get through them and then start some summer reads. So the first one I have is The God and the Kamiho. This is by Sophie Kim. I am just now on chapter 7, page 61. So just giving it a quick start here, and I'm immediately adoring this. This has been so fun in the first 60 pages. So we're following Hani and Silka. And Silka is a detective and is the god of, what is it? A trickster god who has kind of fallen from grace. And Hani works in a coffee shop. She's a Gamiho. And back in the 1800s, 1888, I think, she was the last time that she actually ate any livers or the souls of men. And she basically describes 1888 as an all-you-can-eat buffet and has kind of, in essence, overstuffed herself on kind of the power that has come from eating men's souls and livers. And so she has been working at this coffee shop, at least recently, and so she hasn't really killed anyone since then, but you know, it's kind of been trying to fly under the radar. And so Silka is a detective who is, you know, investigating the deaths of, well, initially is investigating something that was done by a kind of spirit in the water of someone who drowned and basically kind of haunts the water there. And so he needs to try to convince that spirit to move on, basically. And so at first he's, you know, working with that, and then in the next day comes in and says, you know, his supervisor or one of the people he works with says in that same area where that was going on, there was a surge of Gamiho magic, and there were 2 people around that site that were found dead. And so they're thinking maybe a Gamiho has killed 2 people, and you know, maybe it's this infamous Gamiho that hasn't been seen since the 1880s, and so you know, he's going to start investigating this. And Hani did in fact kill those people. They were harassing her, and she did in fact kill them when they would not leave her alone. And so she, you know, was at the coffee shop the next day, and someone in the precinct that Silka works at is mentioning that, you know, they're trying to find an assistant for him, but he's just such a grouch that literally no one wants to work with him. No creatures want to work with him, and he needs an assistant to help him get through this investigation. And so Hani, of course, is like, okay, perfect, like I'll be his assistant and then I can kind of help mislead him and misdirect the investigation, or at least be able to keep tabs on what's going on at the very least. And so she's like, perfect, I'll do it. And just, you know, walks over to the whoever is mentioning this in the coffee shop and is just like, I'll do it. And he just asks her a few questions and, you know, is like, all right, you're hired. And of course, you know, these 2 have met, and he is a grouch, and so she doesn't really like serving him coffee because he's such a grouch, and she's just kind of snarky and sarcastic to him, and she at one point intentionally gets his order wrong and kind of spills his coffee all over him in the process of trying to serve it to him. And anyway, so they've met. They are not off on the best foot, so to say. And I don't know, it's just been so much fun. The writing has been a lot of fun. I'm kind of immediately endeared to both of these characters, or at least find them entertaining and funny. And I'm excited to see the dynamic once she actually becomes his assistant. Anyway, it's been hilarious. I'm thoroughly entertained. And so off to a great start. We'll see if it keeps up with how I'm feeling about it right now. But anyway, yeah, just again, a quick 60 pages, so you can only tell so much from 60 pages, but at least so far so good. So I'll check in tomorrow once I've read more. So it is the next morning. I just took a walk a little bit ago to make sure that I could walk before it gets too hot. Also, it's supposed to rain later today. Perfect reading weather, less perfect walking weather. So I wanted to make sure to get a walk in and at least get outside a little bit before it became intolerable. I've been continuing to listen to The God and the Gamiho, and I'm still just having a grand time with this. I'm laughing, crying, kicking my feet. I love it so much. And even with some of the storyline that we talked about yesterday, some of those moments were just so funny. So, for example, Hani killing those two guys that were harassing her. She had previously talked to her coworker in the coffee shop, and her coworker and friend had told her that she had never, also a Gamiho, for context, had never eaten the liver of a man. And so Hani brings her the livers of the people that she killed. It was like, I can't believe you've never had the liver of a man before. Here you go. It was just like the way it was done and the way it was written. It was just so funny. And I really loved the scene with the precinct officer or captain and, talking about the position and how no one wants to work with Silka because he's just such a grump and they can't fill the position. And she's like, I'll do it. And he really just asked her a few questions before being like, all right, you're hired. And just make sure that she can stand to see a dead body, work long hours, whatever. But he's also like, you also might need to make coffee for him. And she's like, oh, I can do that. After intentionally messing up his coffee order because he's such a rude grump. Anyway, it's just been so funny. There's been a one bed trope that we just got that was absolutely hysterical. I just love the tension that's being built here. And yeah, really hilarious one bed trope, and just I'm loving it. I'm eating it up. And they're mostly following the investigation into there's another creature that's kind of wreaking havoc in the city, and so they're mostly investigating that one because that's the one that seems to be most urgent. But in the back of his mind is also this Gamiho, the Scarlet Fox, that he needs to find in order to kind of keep going with this investigation, along with some other things. I won't talk more about that part of the plot, but they're mostly focusing on the other creature at the moment, and so I'm definitely anticipating that there will be more moments coming up of Hani needing to lead him off her trail as far as her being the Gamiho that they're looking for, which I expect to be hilarious. Their banter is hilarious. The scene of her first starting to be his assistant and coming into the precinct the first time to be his assistant and him realizing that it's her was so funny. Anyway, I'm just having a grand time, and yeah, I'm loving it. I'm a little more than halfway through. I definitely want to read some more today as I apply for some jobs and get some laundry done. So this will be the project for today. Hopefully I can finish this today. That would be great. And then I can get started on the next one. But I'm just having a great time. So yeah, I'll check in later. So it is now Sunday afternoon. I have finished The God and the Gamiho. I'm very glad I ordered the FairyLoot edition of the second one because I absolutely enjoyed this. I adored it from start to finish. I love our characters. I love the plot. I loved the yearning between the two characters and kind of their dynamic. The plot was just really entertaining, but also really funny at different points, and the characters were really funny at different points. I was just having a grand time with this all around from start to finish. And I didn't fully expect to love it as much as I did, but yeah, I had a grand time. I want this to be a show. I would watch that in a heartbeat, and animated or live action. I think it could be either, but I want this to be a show. And this isn't just because the author noted at the beginning that this is kind of a love letter to K-dramas. Like, I could picture everything, and I just think this would make a really great show. Anyway, and it's making me wonder if I should get into K-dramas. Maybe I should. If I enjoyed this, maybe I should. Anyway, we'll see. I haven't started that journey yet, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, thoroughly enjoyed. I have since started Darker by 4 by June C.L. Tan, and in this one we're following Rui and Yurin. And Rui is at school. She has magic. She's at school to be able to train to use that magic, ultimately for the purpose of killing what are called revenants. It's kind of is it like these undead type of beings? There was some sort of plague-like thing that has created these revenants, and a revenant killed her mother. So she not only wants to train her magic in general to rid the world of these revenants, but also specifically to find the one that killed her mother and end that revenant. And then Yurin is kind of the black sheep of his family. His family is powerful in, or maybe runs the kind of society, is it like a society of these exorcists that go out and kill these revenants? Anyway, so very powerful in this world, and he's kind of the black sheep of this family because he doesn't have magic and hasn't ever been able to wield magic or have it in any way, shape, or form, unlike the rest of his family. And anyway, he hasn't been treated well by his grandfather. His grandfather's kind of fed up with him and really just kind of wants him to go away and to barely deal with him. And so in the process of, a revenant is attacking at one point. Rui is on the scene, and some things happen, and essentially she is trying to test out. So one of the things, she has a relationship with someone who's kind of part of this underground users of magic. There's like a whole group of people who kind of underground users of magic don't really want to go to this school to train in their magic and kind of help this larger society. There are reasons. Anyway, they want to kind of be underground about their magic. And so she actually has a connection with someone in this group who wants her to test out different types of magic, or not types of magic, but test out different magical things on his behalf against revenants. And so she is testing out this new piece of magic from this person that she is working with. And in the process of trying to use it to kill this revenant, she transfers her magical ability to Yurin. And so now she is desperately wanting to get her magic back. Yurin is stoked because now he has magic, and maybe he won't be the black sheep of his family and can kind of come into his own in his family and within society because he has magic. And it isn't quite clear to everyone yet that Rui no longer has magic. The story at the moment is just that she is extremely tired and recovering from this interaction with a revenant, and so she just needs some time to heal. Meanwhile, he's like, oh hey, I now have magic to his family, so that he can try to figure that situation out with his family and maybe get some more respect. Anyway, So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I'm a bit over 125 pages, but I've been having a fun time with this one so far. And Emily Wu Zeller narrates, which is delightful. She's a fantastic narrator, so having a good time with that. And yeah, we'll see how this goes, but so far so good. And I need to eat lunch. I need to get maybe a couple more things done before the live show with Cam and Amy for their TBR game. I'm super excited. It's always such a good time. So I'm excited that I'll actually be able to join live this time. And yeah, so I'm gonna eat before doing that, and then, throughout the rest of the day, be able to listen to more of this, and we'll just see how far we get. But yeah. Anyway, so I have finished Darker by 4 by June C.L. Tan. I did really enjoy this one. I don't think I liked it as much as the first one, The God and the Gamiho, but I did have a fun time with this one. I think one aspect that I hadn't mentioned, but it is in the synopsis, so I'll go ahead and briefly mention it. I had mentioned, the power leaving one of our main characters and going into another that hadn't previously had magic. And so the one who had previously had magic and is trying to get vengeance for her mother's death really wants it back. The person who now has it doesn't necessarily want to give it back. And so, they're needing to work together, and they're starting to learn more about what happened and what they need to do, or where they need to go to try to figure out how to switch the magic back. And another thing that happens in here is that the character who lost her magic makes a deal with a god to try to track down a god who's gone missing, and in exchange this god will kind of help her in her efforts to get her magic back. So that's part of this too. So, the gods definitely play a role in this. Our characters, there's kind of a back and forth of them trying to trust each other or try to work together, but really their ultimate goals are kind of at odds, and so there's that tension there. And we have our main character who had magic and her connection to someone who isn't in this school to kind of teach them how to use magic, but he's a magic user kind of outside of the bounds of what they're supposed to do. And that was interesting as well. Anyway, so there were a lot of interesting elements here. I think it's a duology. I'm definitely intrigued to continue and see what happens. Definitely just like a different feeling story, but a lot of fun. So I am now also halfway through The Gods Below by Andrea Stewart, and in this one we're following two sisters. We're following Hakara and Rasha. Hakara is the older sister, and the story starts when they're 9 and 15 or somewhere in that ballpark, and Hakara is the older sister, is trying to protect her younger sister. There's a god who is trying to basically recreate the earth, or not recreate the earth, but kind of bring the earth back to how it was. So humans have kind of destroyed the earth. Another element to that is that there's this specific type of tree that helps give the gods magic, and humans have cut down the last one of those. And so the gods have kind of stored some of this magic away, but essentially this god is trying to kind of take over the other gods, kind of be the dominant god or be the only god that people worship or recognize. And he's trying to go section by section in this world and bring it back to how it was before humans kind of wrecked it. But in an effort to do this, and in an effort to get the kind of materials and energy and whatever needed to be able to do that, essentially half the people vanish, like Thanos style. Like there is a snap of the not literally a snap of the fingers, but like there is a moment, and then half of the people die, and the other half are altered and kind of adapted to live in this new environment. Super interesting. And So protecting her younger sister means trying to get away from this. So she doesn't want to be part of this like Thanos style snap the fingers and half the people die situation. But there are only a dwindling number of areas left that haven't gone through this transformation. And so she is trying to take her sister. And of course, going between these sectors is incredibly difficult. There's been a huge lockdown or a huge tightening of control of who can actually cross the borders. And so as the older sister, Hakara is trying to be able to get to one of these new areas that isn't about to be kind of reformed and be able to get across, bring her sister with her so that there isn't a risk of them kind of dying or being altered. And she is, through circumstances, she goes over and is trying to negotiate to be able to bring her sister as well. And in that process, is through circumstances kind of separated from her sister and isn't able to go back for her. And so, she is kind of in this section that hasn't been altered yet. And the younger sister is kind of sitting there waiting for her older sister to come back when this reformation situation happens, and she does survive but is altered in that process. But her older sister doesn't know whether or not she survived. She knows that that situation was about to happen, but she doesn't know whether or not her sister survived. And so, the younger sister, who is now altered, is trying to figure out what to do. She's sitting there waiting for her sister when some people kind of come up to her and basically kind of take her in. And she's taken in by this religious order. I say order. That's not really the way it's described in here, but she's taken in by this group of people who are worshiping this one god who is kind of instigating this whole situation. And so she's basically raised by them from the time that she's 9 years old. And then the story kind of jumps forward 10 years. She has been raised by this group since she was 9. She wants to become, or is trying to become, one of these basically god killers. So the god that is doing all of this basically wants to kill off all of the other gods so that he is the only god. And she's trying to become one of these god killers that basically works with this god and kind of basically just does his bidding, essentially. And the older sister has been working in, I think it's some mines, trying to get these stones, and like these god stones that are kind of depicted here on the edges. And so she's been working for a long time to be able to save up enough to try to get her sister. And again, situation happens, and she basically swallows one of these god stones and has some abilities imbued from that. And so she is kind of taken in. So again, situations happen. She's kind of taken in by a rebellion or rebellious force that is trying to fight against this god. And so these sisters are kind of through circumstances, are kind of on opposite sides of this war, this situation that is happening with the gods. And anyway, super interesting concept, and I do really like her writing. Things are happening and they are really interesting things. It does kind of feel like a slow story though, and I don't know if it's just her writing style. I feel like this was the same way with her Bone Shard Daughter series. I kind of felt the same way and was definitely intrigued. Her books just feel so unique and so different, which I really appreciate. And it feels like they're slower than they actually are when you think about all of the things that have happened. Anyway, I don't know what it is, but I am enjoying this one quite a bit. Definitely a lot of intriguing, environmental undertones and religious undertones that are being discussed here. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued to see what happens with these sisters. You can kind of see things happening. We follow a couple of other characters as well that are kind of in the mix, a god and someone who's on a related quest for information that is kind of going between the two kingdoms, or the two areas that these two sisters are in. And so you can kind of see them getting closer to coming across each other again. I'm very intrigued, to see what happens with the two sisters and the groups that they're a part of. So I will continue working on this one. I'm hoping to be able to finish it as early as possible tomorrow so that I can start on the next vlog and start on some summer reads. So I'm gonna keep getting some things done and keep reading this and let you know how things go once I've read some more. So realizing as I'm editing this that I didn't have a final clip. So here to wrap up this vlog and say that I did in fact finish The Gods Below and had a really good time with this one. I don't really have much more to say about the plot or how I'm feeling. I think I was feeling pretty consistently about it throughout. Again, kind of feels slow, but I was kind of feels slow, but I was still intrigued the whole time. And I'm very interested to see what happens in the next one. I think it's going to be a trilogy if I'm not mistaken, but I'm intrigued to see where things go. So I'll definitely pick up the next one in the series and hopefully have a good time with it. But hope you enjoyed this reading vlog featuring FairyLoot books that center gods. Just thought it would be a fun theme to go with. And yeah, so hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you've read any of these and what your thoughts were. And I'll be sure to leave my Instagram link down below, as well as more information about how you can support the Black Lives Matter movement. Be sure to subscribe for more bookish content, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.